Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Jenny Halpin, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Air Force is Flight Sergeant Danny Brown. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by visitors to the memorial and students on behalf of Stretton State College from Stretton, Queensland. Now, if you are able, may I invite you to stand and join in singing the National Anthem.
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are one and free. We've golden soil and wealth for toil, our home is got by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty, rich and rare. In history's page, let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains, then let us sing, advance Australia fair.
If you require a seat, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, flowers of the forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to gunner Ivan Edward George Ashley. Ivan Ashley was born in Geelong, Victoria on the 23rd of January 1919, the son of George and Letitia Ashley. After finishing his education, he went on to work as a warehouse assistant to a manufacturing chemist. Ivan Ashley enlisted in the 2nd Australian Imperial Force on the 24th of February 1941 at the age of 21. Transferred to the Royal Australian Artillery, he was assigned to L Battery, the heavy battery unit assigned to Lark Force, one of the so-called Bird Force groups, including Gull and Sparrow, that were sent to the islands to Australia's north. Gunner Ashley travelled to Sydney where he and his comrades embarked for overseas service on the 18th of April 1941. They arrived at Rabaul with 2 6-inch coast guns, which had been removed from Fort Wallace at Stockton near Newcastle. After disembarking, Ashley was evacuated to hospital suffering from enteritis, but returned to duty soon after. At Rabaul, L Battery combined with the 22nd Infantry Battalion, the local unit of the New Guinea Volunteer Rifles, an anti-aircraft battery, elements of the 2nd 10th Field Ambulance, and the 17th Anti-Tank Battery to form Lark Force. Its role was to protect nearby airfields and the seaplane base at Rabaul, and to provide early warning of Japanese movements through the islands to Australia's north. Despite being ill-equipped, the men spent the following months constructing defences and training for operation in a tropical environment. Japanese bombing of New Britain began in early January 1942, increasing in intensity as the month continued. By the morning of the 22nd of January, 24th Squadron had been virtually destroyed and its 3 remaining aircraft were withdrawn. As there was no longer any use for the airstrips, they were destroyed and Lark Force withdrew from Rabaul, waiting on the western shores of Blanche Bay for the inevitable Japanese landings. These began after midnight. By 9 a.m, communication failures and overwhelming Japanese strength had destroyed the cohesion of the Australian defence. It is estimated that against the original garrison of 1,400 men, the Japanese landed 17,000 in the immediate vicinity of Rabaul. Lark Force Commander Colonel John Scanlon ordered a withdrawal on the basis of every man for himself. With the men unprepared for retreat, chaos ensued and Lark Force disintegrated. Over the following days, groups of men ranging from company strength to pairs and individuals sought to escape along New Britain's north and south coasts. Some found small boats, while others were picked up by larger vessels operating from New Guinea. Around 400 members of Lark Force managed to return to Australia, of whom 300 were members of the 2nd 22nd. A grisly fate awaited those who were captured. On the 4th of February, a group of 160 were massacred at the Toll Plantation shortly after their surrender. Gunner Ashley was lucky enough to avoid this fate. He was among the group of approximately 850 military prisoners and 200 civilian internees who were ordered to board the Montevideo Maru on the morning of the 22nd of June. 8 days into the voyage to Hainan, the Montevideo Maru was spotted by the American submarine USS Sturgeon, which manoeuvred into position to fire its stern torpedoes. Survivors from among the Montevideo Maru's Japanese crew reported 2 torpedoes streaking the vessel, followed by an explosion in the oil tank in the aft hold. The vessel sank in as little as 11 minutes. On those aboard, barely 20 Japanese crew survived. Over 1,000 others died. According to a surviving Japanese crewman, Australians in the water sang "Auld Lang Syne" to their trap mates as the ship sank beneath the waves. The sinking is considered the worst maritime disaster in Australia's history. Unaware of the ship's loss, the families of those on the Montevideo Maru continued to send letters in the belief that their loved ones were still being held prisoners of war. It was not until after the war that they discovered the fate of those who had been lost on the Montevideo Maru. Among the dead was Gunner Ivan Ashley, who was 23 years old. Today he is commemorated at the Rebel Memorial, at the Montevideo Maru Memorial in Ballarat, and on the Rebel and Montevideo Maru Memorial here at the Australian War Memorial. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my left, amongst almost 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Gunner Ivan Edward George Ashley, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old as we that left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of our director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support during the memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening.